Hey guys, so hopefully you're coming directly from the first segment of this three-part series. Hey guys, I'm Russell Westcott. Remember, I help real estate investors start, grow, and scale the real estate investing portfolio of your dreams. So if you are coming from the first segment, now the cool thing is you don't have to have watched the first segment in order to get tremendous of value from the second, but the first segment sets up a lot of the backstory, a lot of the context that you will dive deeper into this second segment. So in the second segment with Mr. Derek Peever of Peever Properties, we really go heavy into the how-tos. If you are interested in growing your portfolio, when I have a conversation with real estate investors from across this great country of ours, from coast to coast to coast, one of the themes that keeps coming up over and over again, and this is that whole concept of more, M-O-R-E. Real estate investors want more. They want to have more impact on others. They want more impact on their community. They like to have more properties. They'd like to have some more cash flow, to have more financial freedom. That's what we dive heavily into this topic with Derek and I. We talk about more. We talk about that going from that level of actually getting maybe your first 3 or 4 places to scaling it up to the next level. And Derek is a fantastic resource to help you out with that, as he shared in the first video that he's now surpassed well over $50 million in transaction. So guys, if you're interested in more, if you want to have more properties, if you want to have a deeper level of impact on your community, on your family, on your financial freedom, this is the video series to dive into. We go through some really cool themes in this one. We go through a lot of the how-to, nitty-gritty, plus also Derek shares a lot about what he calls his secret sauce, the secret sauce of super suites. So sure hope you enjoy this one, guys, and we'll see you at the end. All right, guys, back here again, Derek Peever. We're having an unbelievable conversation. So first and foremost, and I know I always start off with gratitude, but I wanted to just thank you, Derek, for taking the time and the expertise that you are. You know, for you, you're a busy guy, right? You have a lot on the go, and I just want to make sure that acknowledge that. So if ever you are wanting to reach out to Derek, why don't we just get this out of the way right now? Sure. How does someone get a hold of you?
Well, you can just Google me. It's real easy. My phone number's online. It's 604-657-9909. Or you can go to the Super Suites website, and any of the contact information there will come right to me as well.
Cool. So speaking of Super Suites,
yes,
we're in one right now. This is kind of, it's not, you're not the inventor of this concept, but I think you've taken it to the next level. Maybe give the backstory about how that came to fruition and how you learned about this strategy.
Sure. Thank you. Well, basically, we started off with unfurnished rentals. We dabbled in rent-to-owns. We tried wholesaling. You know, I'm one of the guys that had the We Buy Homes for Cash fast around his Ford Explorer. So we've tried a lot of things trying to find our way to leaving our jobs. And in 2000, I believe it was mid-2007, a lady named Catherine Brooker, a RE/MAX agent from Calgary, came out to speak to us in BC and told us about basically what she was doing with her furnished rentals on homes, detached homes in Calgary. And I just remember taking furious notes because I had had a chance encounter with a company called Solution Staffing in Abbotsford. They were building the new regional hospital at the time, and they were looking for furnished suites for nurses. They had called me on one of my unfurnished ads, asking me if I'd be willing to furnish it. So we thought there was this new condo called The Element coming up across the street from the hospital, and we thought it would be an ideal place for a 2-bed, 2-full-bath for Solution Staffing. It turns out we never rented to them for several years, but it went so well with the demand that we basically never did another unfurnished rental. And we loosely used the term super suites in our ads because we had heard the term through seminars, and it was used in places like Fort McMurray to describe a fully furnished and equipped condo.
Yeah.
Many years later, we inquired if it was actually a protected trademark, and it wasn't. So we patented that for use in Canada, and also Super Suites on Demand, which is basically a portable condominium.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. It's turnkey. It's got, if I open the drawer, it's got cutlery in the drawer. I went into the washroom to use the washroom. It's got the little rolled up, sorry, the cleaner might have to come by again here. It's absolutely just turnkey. So what kind of clientele are you attracting for your places?
Thank you. Yeah, so Super Suites are basically fully furnished and equipped accommodations. They come with full kitchen, full linen, all the amenities of home. So our tenants just have to bring luggage and food. And basically, our primary client is a small family, maybe 1 or 2 kids who has had a flood or fire in their home, and they need somewhere to stay while their home gets repaired. We also do quite a bit of corporate relocation. So, for example, if a company hires a new hire to the area, a lot of them will pay for the employee's accommodation, typically for 60 days, while they sell their place back home or figure out if they even want to stay and take the job. Figure out where they want to live, and we'll kind of try to be a resource to them to help them transition out of the Super Suite as well.
Okay, so this place that we're in right now, what would it rent for as a Super Suite property?
So this is a 2-bedroom and den. It's a fairly small one, but it's also quite unique because we're on the top floor and it's a 2-story loft, which is fairly rare in Abbotsford. And we've had these properties online for about 3 years, and they've rented quite consistently for between $115 to $125 a night, all inclusive, which is $34.50 to $37.50. And purchase price on it today is probably around $350, give or take. So it seems like a very high rental number, and people should realize there are a lot of operating costs in there. With housekeeping, with utilities, it's truly an all-inclusive. And you have to budget for linen, you have to budget for chattels and things and also a much higher vacancy and your time.
Right. What do you find vacancy on one of your units? I think we're actually probably rare that we're actually in one of your properties while it's vacant.
Yeah, it's quite good. Like in the industry, it's considered fairly successful if you're more than 80% occupied, similar to seniors housing or other kind of value-add rental strategies. But we budget 2 months a year vacant in our performance.
About 17%.
Right.
Okay, about 20.
Exactly.
20,
yeah. And if you get on a nice roll, you can literally almost be full all year, which is more typical in the Fraser Valley area. Whereas our new properties in Calgary could see as much as 4 months vacant in a year, but we're getting in on a really good buying opportunity.
Okay. So was it the number $34.50? Was that the number?
Correct.
What would this place rent for if it was unfurnished? Give your ballpark estimate.
Yeah. So market rents are up a lot in the last 2 years as well, probably even outpacing rents on our side. But when we purchased it, it was probably more like $1,400, $1,500, and today might be $18,000, $2,000 unfurnished.
So you're getting minimum $1,500 premium.
Correct.
For having it furnished.
Yep.
Okay. And do you factor in a lot of the furniture and the appliances and the knives and kit? Do you factor that into the purchase costs at the beginning?
Yeah. Well, one cool strategy that you guys can do actually is with the brick or Ashley's. There's a few of them that will do no payments, no interest for 12 or 18 months. And the way that it works is if you take the 12-month program, you basically pay the taxes up front, which on a 2-bedroom condo might be $500 or something.
Right.
If you take the 18-month plan, then it's basically factored in a little bit of an extra financing cost or whatever, but that's an option as well. And it's a great option because then the tenant, if you do well, pays for the furniture out of the cash flow. So one additional benefit we offer to our partners is that we won't take anything as the managing partner until the furniture's paid out. So what that does is that lowers their cash required by about $10,000 to $14,000 and increases their return on investment.
Wow. So you have investment partners on these Super Suites,
yes.
And you like brand new construction, which
right.
I love brand new construction myself.
Yeah.
But frankly, guys, if you do get into the world of brand new housing, you may never ever go back to buying an old resale house again. Now,
it's hard.
I'm not saying that it works in every market, but if given a choice between a market, if you can get a brand new house or a resale house that's 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, I would take a new house all day long.
Yes.
Now I'm talking in generalities, but you do get into brand new properties,
Right.
Because it works very, very well for these higher end rental properties.
Yes.
So how do you structure your joint venture? So I'm going to do a role play here.
Okay.
I've got, how much money do you need for somebody to come typically in to buy in?
Our cookie cutter deal today is between 80 and 120,000 all in.
Okay, I got 250 grand.
Okay.
Okay. And you've working your magic and us meeting at a thing like that. You've asked me lots of questions, and I love what you're talking about. I like the cut of your jib and all that kind of stuff. And I've got 250 grand.
Yeah.
And we're having a meeting. How would you structure that with me?
Okay. So, first I like to just start out by not coming on too heavy with a big PowerPoint and all this. I like to just meet people, generally not have a take feel, just, how can I help you? Is it a good fit? Do we have good chemistry?
So yeah, it's a little bit of bromance going on
Yeah.
here. It's almost like a date.
Exactly.
It's the e-harmony of real estate investing.
Exactly, right? Like hopefully you don't need to do the deal, right? Like I like that grocery store test. If you ran into the person at the grocery store, would you kind of hurry the other way like you didn't see them, or would you say, hey, how's it going? Because life's too short to have partners that you really just dread dealing with.
Right.
I've had some of those, but basically I would start off just introductory, backstory, see if there's a good feeling. And then I would probably put them on my list if they would like to get opportunities, just so they can see what our typical opportunity looks like. And if they have questions, I'll walk them through the pro forma, and they can kind of get a flavor for what our deals look like that way.
Okay. So we've met, we've had a coffee date.
Yeah.
We both like what we see so far.
Yeah.
Do you have properties on your website, or do you email it to people, or what do you typically do?
Yeah. So we don't have any investment opportunities anywhere.
Smart point,
online.
Because sometimes you can become a target if you have them on your website. But
yes.
anyway.
So it's basically exclusive opportunities to our friends and family as they come available. We always try to give first right of refusal to our existing partners as a courtesy. And quite often, to touch on what we were talking about earlier, it is our existing partners that do the next deal, and we look to refinance something. Or it's someone they know that is the next referral, typically, that does another deal. But after that, I can walk them through a detailed PowerPoint of who brings what to the table, where you kind of demonstrate why you're getting 50% ownership and all the things that you do that I learned from Russ on how to present that. And really, I have no problem asking for 50% because I've seen these deals through. And, sometimes if they don't go as great, you work for free for 10 years. And, it's risk and reward.
Okay. So we've had... met, we like what we see. You've qualified me pretty hard over the time to make sure that it's a good fit, because fit is more important than the money.
Yes.
Right? Because you have to be able to work together.
Yes.
You've now shown me a couple properties. You've given me a formal presentation. So we're now talking 3-4 meetings, probably.
At least, right? They say 7
right?
on average, isn't it? Before you can actually do business with somebody.
Okay, I like what you have to offer, and I'm ready to sign on the dotted line with $250,000.
Okay.
What's the next step?
Okay, so the next step typically is that we have an opportunity already that's available for you. And
do you give me just 1 or 2, or do you give me 3, or do you just give me here's the best deal and away you go?
Yeah, it's usually, one at a time as they come in.
Yep.
And it will be one particular project, one development where we're buying, let's say, anywhere from 4 to 12 units on average. And what we do is we'll have individual partners on each of the 4 units, for example, but collectively we get some buying power. So we add value to the individual partner that they would get a deal that they would never get if they walked in off the street without our group. Okay.
So I'm going to back up a step here, and I know we're just doing this off the cuff. We're in this every day, and it's interesting. And I'm going through the process right now of building out my entire system and just refreshing everything. And it's like asking a master chef who's been cooking a master dish for the last 12 years. So what exactly do you do, right? And it's sitting there and go, well, you have to actually go time out. Okay, here's the step. And then you actually now we're documenting the process.
Right.
And everybody who's watching this gets to get the benefit of that. Do you have some favorite questions that you like to ask people in the qualification stage with your investors?
Yes. One that I've learned to ask is that because our strategy, a big benefit to it is that we give monthly owner payments as opposed to like reinvesting and compounding like Buffett does, which is a great idea. But I think a reason that a lot of people invest is because it does pay monthly. And it's a good finger on the pulse of the health of the investment. But one of the key questions that I like to ask people is, are you depending on this monthly owner payment in order to pay the bills, or are you okay with a scenario where you don't get it, or it's reduced or temporarily stopped? Because, if you start somebody off with, let's say, a $400 a month owner payment, and you have to take it back, I probably got this from you, but it's like taking a bone from a dog, right? Where they'll love you if you bump it, or they'll just be content with you if you bump it. But if you reduce it or pause it, it's a big problem, right? So that's one.
Yeah, one of the big mistakes I made, I share this all the time, is during the really good times is, everybody gets paid out. I often joke about it's like Oprah, and you get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car, right? And everybody gets a car. And then all of a sudden, if the market ever turned, like it did in Alberta for a little while, and all of a sudden now everybody was used to getting cars on a yearly basis, then that becomes an issue.
And it turned here too.
Yes.
Like I lived through 20-30% price corrections in Abbotsford. So if people think it's just like Vancouver that it tends to go straight up like that, it's really not. It behaves more like Alberta in the Eastern Fraser Valley.
Right. Okay. So there is volatility.
Yes.
I bet you would probably prescribe to the whole thought around it. Killer deal attracts wealth, attracts money.
Yes.
Right. That's probably your number one fundamental, is that it has to have an unbelievable deal, and that deal will attract wealth to it.
Absolutely, right? And also having an investable theme, I think, is important, because
you have a system.
Yeah, and if you just have a vanilla deal that they could hire a property manager for, you got to add some value either two ways that I know of, is physical renovations or strategy, right? Whether it's rent to own or assignments or whatever your special sauce is, there's got to be something there that justifies your role.
Yeah. Guys, it's funny. I was just answering a question just recently about somebody who said, I heard that you can charge acquisition fees on things, and I'm entitled to an acquisition fee. And I go, well, you ain't entitled to nothing. Everything is earned.
Yes.
Right? If you provide no value to that, how can you ask for 50, 60, 70, 80%?
And I think I got a bit of a unique perspective on this acquisition fee thing. Like, one of the fundamental things that we've always done is we don't charge any fees, any markups. Like our corporate discount on Shaw is exactly what we share with the partnership. We don't charge travel charges. We don't charge markups on linen, anything like that, which is very typical with most operators. And, basically one cool thing about this acquisition fee or bird dog fee is that there are a lot of upfront time and costs required to get a property going. It's front end loaded.
Yep.
And what we do is we charge what's called a managerial loan. And it's actually an interest-free loan for $5,000 that gets loaned to myself and my local partner. For example, if it's in Calgary, we would split it, $2,500 each. And that amount gets paid back to the investor with their original capital invested, either when we refinance or sell. So it helps us with travel and upfront costs and all that. It's tax efficient for us, and there's still no fees.
Okay, so in essence, you'd be, let's say normal down payment would be 85. You'd be charging 85 plus maybe some other closing costs and a few things, and then you actually put another 5,000 on top. So maybe it's 95.
Correct.
The down payment in.
Right.
And that's what I get back, and 5 of that is that loan.
Correct.
Okay. Well, very good.
Yeah.
And then that goes directly back to you, but you paid out of the proceeds at the back end.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so taking it back to our conversation, we've had 3 or 4 meetings. We've had up to 7 meetings potentially.
Sure.
I like what I see. You like what I see. I've got $250,000.
Yeah.
You have 4 opportunities
Right.
that are on the books. what's the next step from there? Do you have a certain paperwork that I have to start signing, or who qualifies for the mortgage? Like what's the next step?
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
So right around that stage is probably where I'm going to suggest, depending on the timeline of the deal, that you're going to get your own accounting advice, your own legal advice. Typically, the lawyer will want to give some feedback on the joint venture agreement, and we're always open to building that in and improving it as long as it's reasonable. Basically, the way that we set it up, Russ, is we're going to let them do the deal. Like that Mr. and Mrs. Smith or their entity is going to take over that contract to buy that condo, and we're basically out. And they're going to buy it on their own merit, with their own down payment, with their own qualifying ability. And then once they legally own it, and we'll take a step back in a sec again, but once they legally own it, then they can either, hire a property manager, joint venture with us, which is what the plan is, but there's nothing binding them to joint venture with us at the point when they close on the property.
Okay, so I'm buying it, right?
Yeah.
So essentially do you have it under contract?
Yes.
Are you the current, so you buy it yourself?
Yes,
so you own it?
It's typically Peever Properties Inc. will tie up, let's say, that 4-unit scenario.
Okay, you own the 4.
Right, so we've got the contract on it. We haven't removed our subjects, but we've got a right to buy it, which then allows us to legally promote it to our investor database. You have to have it under contract if you're not a licensed individual.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, so you go in, you will write an offer with subject. What is one of the subjects that you will put in there? Subject to that you have the option to assign it and transfer it to another third party, or
exactly. We want to be clear that ideally there's no assignment fees, but if there is assignment fees, we're clear on what they are. We can usually get those waived because we're very upfront in our very first email summary to the seller on who we are. We do 1-month rentals. We're super sweets. Here's who our clients are. We do joint ventures. The investor's going to close on it eventually, not us. And basically pass along the exact same price and terms that we got to the partners.
Okay. So you're 100% transparent. You have the property under contract. I'm coming in now, and then you assign the property to me.
Right.
I will then go to the bank to get my own mortgage.
Yeah.
I will then have to stroke a check for the down payment.
Right.
And the title's in my name, the mortgage is in my name, and I close on the place as if I owned it.
Yeah, and you do. And one detail to add is that quite often, instead of doing an assignment addendum, we'll just do a fresh, clean contract in Mr. and Miss Smith's name, and just ours goes by the wayside because a lot of lenders are concerned that you're flipping or you're marking it up and it's getting frothy, right?
Okay, so you go back to the seller and just get a new contract in place.
Yes.
Okay. And then I go and have my own conversation with my own lawyers and my own bank, and I 100% own the place.
Correct.
Now, I know and we're going to get into this is a little bit of a hot button that's out there in the marketplace right now. It's, some lawyers are going, well, geez, is there a third party interest in this property?
Yes.
Is there this Peever Con? Who's this Peever Con of this? What's the dealio? And the lawyer has to report that to the bank. Right. To my bank.
Yes. So I've had this situation right at the closing table, blow up a deal at the 11th hour. And basically, the way that we handled it was, in that situation, really, truly, because they're buying it on their own merit with their own funds, there's no side contracts. We never have an addendum that doesn't go to the bank or anything like that. So really, we do stand the risk of them just saying, who are you, at the day after completion, even though we negotiated the deal and all that, right? But one time we had this situation at the closing table. And the lawyer, our lawyer, who, when you're purchasing, actually is the bank's lawyer, as you know, not the buyer's lawyer. They're bound to the lender. He felt that it was a bit of a gray area, that he couldn't sign off that there was no third party involved because he just felt uncomfortable for whatever reason. So we just had a new notary basically look after the file and put it through, and they weren't aware of the emails going back and forth with myself and them. But I just fall back on the point that they're buying it on their own merit, they're qualifying with their own true details on their employment and everything. And once they own it, they have property rights. There's nothing illegal or unmoral about doing a joint venture with somebody after you own a property.
Right. And one of the things that one of the things I'm doing myself with a couple of the, flips I'm doing is I'm working with a money partner, and we're just actually writing a check, all cash, to buy the place. Right. It's now the title's in my name.
Yeah.
I own it. Now what we can do is we can go back to a bank, or we can then, once you own it, you can do something different with it after you've actually closed on it.
Very true.
Right. So not everybody is in that position where they can stroke that check.
Yeah.
But it depends on your money partner.
And you know what's interesting too, Russ, is even with how sweet some of our deals are, like a lot of them will have built-in equity at completion because we've negotiated a bulk discount. We've never had a partner, not partner with us once they've legally completed on it and own it. So, to leave your tail hanging out a little bit, if you're worried about that, then it's probably not somebody you want to partner with anyways.
So really it's coming down to the bank. A bank is having an issue, not necessarily the person buying it.
That's right. And I think I see it from both sides, and I appreciate our Canadian banking system and how it's cautious and all this. But they want to make sure that, for example, Mr. and Mrs. Smith aren't just getting their down payment from somebody else, or their income qualification wasn't true or accurate. Like, as long as they truly qualify on their own, having us in does not increase the bank's liability at all. It only strengthens their security.
Right, and that's how you can keep adding properties to your portfolio.
Right.
Without having to qualify for a mortgage.
That's right, because even now, because I've been self-employed since 2009, it's very difficult to get mortgages in my own name.
Yeah.
And if I do, which I can, they're 65% loan to value as opposed to 80, right? Because it's commercial, you have multiple units.
Okay. So I've gone in and I've bought 2 places.
Okay.
Got my own mortgage, my own down payment, went to see the lawyer,
Yep.
got it all closed, it's all reported. Woohoo, I own a place.
Yeah.
Now what do I typically do after that? After I celebrate and take my lovely wife out for dinner, what typically we do after that?
Right. So an important point to make is that we have checklists for everything. A checklist to me is a system, right? So we have due diligence checklists, which were based off some of the early RAIN, all property checklists and strata due diligence checklists. And then we've customized them. Every time you make a mistake or if something's redundant, you add and take away from your checklist. We have completion checklists for as the property completes. We have investor relation checklist, right, for the whole process, even to get a little, mug or something at the end of it, right? So that checklist basically walks through the steps of after completion, we would sign a joint venture agreement. And also, if it's in BC, we now have a trust declaration, which used to be built into our joint venture agreement. And as you know, because we dealt with this many years ago, it's now been recommended that it's a separate document. So it's very clear that the investors, the trustee on title, is holding the property in trust for the beneficial ownership, which is themselves and PeeverCon properties.
Okay, we're going to get into that furthermore because trust declarations and things like that might be new for some people to hear.
Sure.
And I think that is something that we definitely will get into a little bit more here. So what did you think? Wow, segment 2, fantastic. What a wonderful how-to, truly a masterclass of how to start scaling a portfolio of properties. Now remember, there is a third segment. In the third segment, we really go deep into a story that Derek gets into a little bit of a sticky situation that he, in some really aggressive marketing, starts attracting the attention of the wrong people. So if you have ever had that question about, what if I ever get contacted by securities people or the office of the financial superintendent of real estate? What do I do? What happens if I hit some roadblocks along the way? That is what we're going to cover head first in the third segment. So guys, make sure after you've watched this one, if it's not online already, wait, it'll be coming out within a week. But if it is online, just go instantly to that next segment and dive headfirst into this story. Okay, guys, remember, I'm Russell Westcott. I help real estate investors start, grow, and scale the real estate investing portfolio of your dreams. Talk to you soon.